I'm Daniel. I'm a dad with a 7-month-old baby boy on my hands. I will share my stories and learnings from being a father throughout this podcast.
I'm Marcus. I have 3 kids, a 2-year-old girl, a 4-year-old boy, and a 6-year-old boy.
So without further ado,
Podcast.
let's get to it.
Welcome back. Today's topic is one of the heaviest and scariest and most constant parts of being a dad. Money.
Yes, sir. And of course, I think for every single dad out there, the money is very constant thing, like you said in the intro. But of course, I think every one of us thinks about money and acts differently with it as well, I have to say. But of course, it all comes from our own previous experiences with it, how we grew up with it, and how it changed for us when we became parents by ourselves.
Absolutely. And when you were growing up, like money and your situation and your relationship with money, how, if you should sum it up in maybe a short version,
Yeah.
because you could probably talk a long time about that. What was that relationship like?
I would have to say that I have seen different sides of living with the money and living without the money. Because when I was born, both of my parents were very young. At the time, they were both only 18. So pretty much just stepping into the adulthood. They were working on their like entry-level jobs, I would have to say. And they were still learning to use money and how to save it. So in the beginning of my childhood, I have to say that they didn't really know completely what they were doing, but they were constantly learning. And of course, when I grew up, they developed very different situation for our family as well. Later on, when they learned how to save the money, how to do long-term planning, etc. So yeah, to sum it up, I have seen both sides of the coin. What about you?
I would say absolutely the same in more or less, depending on what time. But when I was growing up, I had my own dad up to a certain point where my parents were separated. And after that, my mom, she was remarrying. They were not actually married, my dad and my mom, but she was marrying her new husband. And at that time, we came from a struggling period to a period where he had his own thing going, like business, and we didn't need to think about money in a long time to actually go back to being bankrupt kind of situation.
Yeah.
We lost a house we lived in while I was, what have I been there, like 14 to 16 years old, something like that. And like you said, it has some qualities and it has some benefits and it has some flaws, both sides. But my relationship to money has always been up to a certain point where I never really, I always needed them, but I really never needed them.
Yeah.
Because I worked also from a very early age. I think I started as 13 years old.
Very young.
Very young. Next to my school, some of the period I worked. And then I just kept working up to where I am today, of course, but with a journey that probably first started for real after being dad for the first time.
Okay, that's very interesting. And I have to say also that when it's a little bit like a roller coaster with the financial situation from the early age, it gives you a whole different perspective about the money for yourself too. Like you start to think about it in a very different way and you start to be a little bit more thoughtful about it in a good way, of course, because now you can actually see and you know how it changes your lifestyle and all the possibilities when you have money compared to when you don't have the money, of course.
And I think also it's very related to your parents' relationship to money, how your relationship to money is, because the reason I never lacked but always lacked money is that we never been like millionaire, billionaire rich,
Yeah.
but we have been so rich that we didn't need anything. We go on the holidays. Everything was paid for, taken care of. We had a really nice childhood, loving homes and loving parents and people around. But you also saw the side of sticking together when shit hit the fence and the money situation were low. But my relationship to money has never piqued me to be so curious. So I found out how to make money other ways than 9 to 5 up to a very late age,
Yeah.
where I kind of stuck my foot down and said, now I want to figure out how this is working. And then I figured it out. And that has been an amazing journey.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And of course,
But I mean, there can come a lot of surprises with the whole money situation along the way, especially when we're talking fatherhood. We can talk in terms of in some countries we have hospital bills, we have insurances, we have of course all the baby gear.
yeah.
There's the daycare situations and slowly going to be school equipment and so on.
Exactly.
Sports activities and all these things are also of course adding up. But I mean, how was your experience? Like, there is this 8 month we talked about in the previous episode where we kind of got out and got all the gears and the stuff for the baby. And was there any like surprises for you in that, like good or bad, in how that turned out?
Of course. And in the beginning, I have to say, of course, this whole financial thing is constant learning process along the way. But when I actually became a father, I had to relearn a lot of things around the money, especially with the surprising costs about baby gear and everything related to that. For example, buying like all the stuff or the clothing or the food and all the equipment for the baby.
I could also imagine you probably was imagining again as a man that this is something we're gonna do within this budget. When you actually stand in the shop, and I don't care who you are, you want the best for your baby,
Of
and
course.
the quality product is usually also a lot more smoother. We can compare it to, let's say, iPhone
Yeah.
and some Huawei phone. There is a smoother design, easier to use, and probably also a lot more money put into the technology. But it's the same with baby products.
Exactly. And of course, like for some of the things you don't even think about until you need to buy it. For example, for me and my wife, it was baby powder.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, gladly, my baby was able to drink normal breast milk, but after some period of time, he didn't really want to drink from the boob anymore. So we had to bottle feed our son. And after some time, he just wasn't able to drink from the boob at all. And that pretty much stopped the milk production for my wife. So then we needed to continue with only giving the baby powder, baby formula for our son. And that was pretty expensive. And I wasn't prepared for that at all. So that one was maybe the biggest surprising cost that I had to reconsider to our weekly daily budget, pretty much.
I remember a certain situation from exactly that baby festival we went to, where they had this chair. It was like a very low seated baby chair that has this kind of cradle inside. Very nice design, and the salesman was really good. He was sitting in it himself. Like, it can carry a huge load. It will hold for I don't know how many years, and it could rock by itself from side to side in different positions. And I was like, but it was expensive, compared to all the other things we also have to buy and need. And when you find out a little about the baby stuff and the quality difference in what you want to, like, it could be a sponge example.
Yeah.
If you want to buy the natural organic one, it's like 3 or 4 times more expensive than the one you can buy that is synthetic. And these things all the time accumulate. And like you say, we also had huge expenses for milk, still having, because the middle one and the little one is still drinking a lot of milk. The oldest one is kind of out of it, but once in a while he can take some milk also, but is mainly out of it. He's almost 6 now. But it's crazy when you think about before and then to after, when you suddenly have 10 boxes of milk on the way home from grocery shopping. You order, let's say, 20 packs of wet wipes online because
Yes.
it was on offer, and these kind
And
of things.
diapers and everything.
Diapers, and yes, exactly. But luckily, I mean, diapers is also really expensive, but around 2 to 3 years, they learn to go to the toilet themselves,
Yeah.
usually. So it's an expense that's gonna cut off, and then a lot of other expenses is gonna come in. Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. And I have to say, to add on to the previous discussion, that maybe the two most shocking costs for us were the hospital bills and the insurance bills for the newborn baby. And oh my
Crazy high.
days, yes, they're very expensive. Of course, like giving birth in a private hospital costs decent amount of money. But after that, I was thinking like, okay, now of course I need to buy some sort of insurance for a baby as well. And I was thinking about my own insurance and how much it costs. So I was thinking like, okay, the baby insurance is probably
In
gonna
the
be the
area.
same. But oh my days, not at all. Like the baby insurance was like 5 times more expensive than the adult ones. And of course I understand why, but it was shocking for us.
It is shocking, and it's also shocking to think back because now I have 3 of them.
Yeah.
And, we have been using the insurance about 2 times with the oldest one.
Yeah.
Both of them has been very high fever, and that's it.
Exactly. But it's a nice thing to have, because if shit hits the fan, you can always rely on the insurance, so it's like the backup anchor.
Absolutely. It's something that is hard to spare away unless you live in a country where it's like under the social security and free. But it's uncomparable, I think, to the feelings to stand there and think, oh shit, I don't have the money to pay, compared to actually make sure that the insurance is okay.
Exactly. It gives you peace of mind.
Absolutely. And that's also another thing that helped me a lot with controlling my finances, is the 20-30-50 rule, which is you're dividing 20% of your salary. You divide it up in investment, in saving, and in
the necessary things to buy, pretty much.
Exactly. You have your needs, which is rent, foods, and all these necessities, which is 50%. The 30% you have for wants, the kind of thing you wish for, or that is not a necessity at the moment, not a need at the moment. And then you have the 20%. You have the 20% left for investment, saving, and these kind of things. And that kind of structured my economy when I didn't have so much available spending amount, both because of more kids, more expenses, but also because of lower salary in periods and stuff like that.
Exactly. And this all comes to the family budgeting, pretty much, that now we need to think about the essential things, like you said, that we need to buy. And of course, the nice to have things, pretty much. And of course, the diapers, the baby formulas, etc. They are the essential things. But on top of that, we also have the possibility to buy some nice clothes, nice gadgets for our babies. And I would say those are the nice to have things, pretty much.
When we're talking in the area of these gadgets and what you want to buy, need to buy, what would your absolute best advice be to a dad that is going out now with his wife, and he should do the pre-shopping and get ready for the baby to come? What would be the best advice you could give the dad there?
I would say you should definitely focus on the essential side of the things that you're going to buy. And if you're able to think about maybe the first 2 weeks after coming home with the baby, that what the baby is actually going to need, those are the things you should definitely buy in the beginning.
Could you come with a couple of examples?
Of course, like wet wipes, diapers, maybe a little bit baby formula, because you cannot predict if the baby is able to drink from the boob or if it's going to be bottle fed from the beginning. And what else? Of course, some tissues. The what are the things that you clean your ear with?
Cotton buds.
Exactly, cotton buds,
Yeah,
etc. Like those type of small things, pretty much. And if you
absolutely.
have anything to add on to those things, I'm sure it would be very helpful.
Well, agreed in exactly that what you said, but I would say restrain yourself from buying what you want to buy and what you think is going to be right. There's also, of course, if you know the gender or not, colors and boy girl, but there is this whole urge, I would say, rising in you when you stand in these stores and your baby is going to have everything. But most of the things, and that's another funny story I would like to relate this to, is we have about 5 to 10 bicycles, 5 to 10 small cars
Yeah,
standing in the driveway, and we have scooters, we have everything. And scooters they use sometimes, but the rest is barely ever used. Some of them are broken, and they of course had their fun with it. But if you choose to look at the essential side, like you were in on, like baby wipes, maybe a little extra formula, cotton buds, these necessary things, everything else like painting in the kids room and pictures, toys, clothing, it will come slowly when you also get to know what kind of style, what kind of quality you would want for your kid. Plus the weeks after, especially if you have a little bit of a family or a little bit of a friendship group, there will come so many gifts. And I found out that many of the things we bought, we got in gifts.
yes,
So don't worry, don't be too hasty. Rather sleep on it one more night than make a too expensive or too invaluable buy in the moment.
exactly. And of course, like you said previously, you have your family and friends who are definitely going to take care of some of the things. And the positive surprise for us was that how the grandparents are going to act in the situation when you come home with your newborn, and they are going to spoil them so much. They are going to buy clothes and everything that you didn't even think about previously.
Exactly.
So it's going to be very helpful. And of course, you and your partner probably have a little bit differences with your spending styles and in your opinions about the things you would like to buy for the baby. So I think very practical thing would be to talk about it very clearly with your wife and your partner, that what are the things that you see as an essential things versus the nice to have things. That's going to help so much in the longer run.
Absolutely. And I agree to that. And it already starts like many times I have through my life been thinking, why should I do the saving? Why should I do the investment if it's so small? But that's only compared to what I think is small and what is big. So if I could give an advice that you could really take to consideration, would be there's no amount there's too small to be put in a saving or be put in an investment for later use or for emergency or whatever. Because even if you start, let's say, with $100 on a saving account, those $100 will make you feel incredibly good that you just have them there compared to before when you don't have anything. That
Exactly.
was at least my experience when I started to have more money than the month.
Yeah, and I agree on that. And of course, when time goes on and you are very consistent with the saving, it's gonna sum up later on,
Absolutely.
and it's gonna bring even more peace of mind for later use if you actually need it. And if you don't need to use it, it's even better, because then at some point you're able to do something that you perhaps wouldn't have been otherwise.
Agreed. Agreed. And then there is, of course, the whole topic of a little bit longer term planning for, let's say, education and schools and all this. We both haven't been, I mean, we have two in preschool, like kindergarten. And I would say that is expensive enough in itself, of course, and some few activities, swimming and music and stuff like that.
The hobbies as well.
Exactly. But on the longer term or longer run, I think it would be a very wise decision to put some saving aside for that. and I'm not talking in terms of several hundred thousands, but that you have an account, let's say with 1,000 or $3,000 standing for, it could be new books, it could be an intuition fee, it could be whatever that comes out of the blue, hospital bill for that matter. But just have something allocated for activities, schools, and that kind of thing early in the stages, because then again you will feel so much more comfortable that you don't have to take it out of your normal income, but can take it from the saving.
Exactly. And very good thing about this longer term planning is that you have so many investment instruments pretty much that you can choose from. It might be stocks, it might be funds, it might be gold, or maybe even properties, depending on your situation. But you can always start from the little and later on make it bigger as you go by.
Essentially, I would also say what really made me calm down was to sit down and make a realistic plan a little bit further ahead for myself too. So I was not just living in the weeks or the month or the next year, but I was actually looking maybe 3, 5, or 10 years ahead. And then it's also easier to make a small investment in something that could over years accumulate maybe 30, 40, 50 times, let's say 5 or 10 years. And then, yes, $1,000 would be $30,000. But before that, you didn't even have $1,000.
Exactly.
So it's all accumulate up. And then there's the whole part. And I think we should dedicate an episode or maybe even 2 for that talk. But there's also the choice of homeschooling compared to sending them into a regular or communal institution.
Exactly, private or public schools.
Exactly. So there's many choices to be made, and also that have a huge effect on the financial side. And as we talked about earlier or previously, if we could take off a year or 2 to be with our kids without thinking about anything, expenses or friends' times, but just could plan our day and homeschool, that would absolutely be something that I would love to jump into, and hope for the next let's say 5 years that I could somehow make my life turn in that direction and make it a reality one day.
Yes, sir. And of course, as a dad, I would like to see myself as a provider of the family to some extent. And of course, thinking about or talking about heavy topic like this brings some sort of pressure time to time, even to our daily life. But before we go any further, I would like to ask, has thinking about financial decisions, brought you any pressure or stress to your life at some point? Of course, at some point, but maybe.
So absolutely, it has been much of a roller coaster for me, because when we started having kids the first time, I was in a financial place where I never made as much money as I did at that time before. So we were not in need of anything. We got what we wanted. We're living kind of an extravagant life, not in the million billion class again, but we bought all the expensive shit. It could be creams. It could be, we were living quite expensive, had a pool and a big house, walk-in closet, stuff like that. We bought a new car, when the baby was coming, and all these necessary, essential things, which probably we could have cut down 30% without problems. It was nice to have. We had the money to buy that too. So and then it went from that to I would say a decrease in my salary on maybe 60 to 70% at a time, which of course was a hard cut back, but we had all the necessities and all the essentials. And then it started with we were having a nanny at the time, and then the school started, and then the second one came along.
Yes.
And I would say when the second one came along, it was a struggle because I was not prepared on the long term at that time. So was very short-sighted in how I spent my money and we spent it. And I am at a point where I can be very, very strict and very good with money, but she is at a point where I'm the provider, and she's not bad with money, but she's not necessarily a genius either.
Yeah.
So, we had some years where we struggled, and then the third came along, and then I had to like flip it all around and really set the tables in terms of in future investments and how we like manage. I had to dig up some different ways of getting more money than what my salary could bring, and that has been very interesting adventures. Ended up Airbnb for one of the asset, and yeah, it's like you said, it's an ongoing development of trying to do the best choices and the choices that makes most sense. There's also inflation, the world situation, and there's a lot of things to consider when you suddenly thinking more than a week or a month ahead.
Exactly.
What about you?
For me, of course, like I said, I would like to see myself as a provider. So therefore, I would like to think that I need to hustle hard before I'm able to enjoy the fruits of my work, pretty much. And of course, it brings stress into the life time to time, especially when you're really focusing on the grinding and hustling and making the money and putting in the effort for your family, and that might, you know, take you away from your family for time wise, I would have to say, because you're not able to be present in their daily day activities so much. But in the longer run, I would like to see it as a good thing, because if I'm able to hustle very hard right now, perhaps in the future, I don't need to hustle so much and I'm able to take it a little bit easier with the family as well.
I think we can agree both of us is not going to the pension age 60 or 70 at all.
No, definitely not. And I wouldn't like to rely on that at all. I would like to take the matter in my own hands
Absolutely.
and make sure that, me, my family, my kids, and hopefully even their kids are very well set when it's
Agreed.
my time to step aside and have it a little bit easier.
Totally agreed. Totally agree on that. If we just sum up a little bit, like one of the things that I know practically has helped me a lot is to track my expenses.
Yes.
And it's not funny, because usually when you're in need of tracking your expenses, you don't want to do it because you
Exactly.
know something is off and you actually can't find the energy to sit down and really go to the bottom of it. But when I actually did it, it was very clarifying, and it was also very easy to see where the money goes. And at that time, there was a lot of like restaurant visits and guys' night out and all these things, and it accumulated up together with. At that time, I both drink alcohol, smoke cigarettes, and these different things. And even though it's like, I don't know, 10, $20 for a pack, it all adds up if it's every day and it's on top of all the other expenses.
Exactly.
So very clarifying if one need to really do your budget, it's always smart to do a week or two where you actually track everything you're doing. You write down on your phone or on a laptop your little book or whatever.
Exactly. And if it's
Everything.
not so easy to just write it down and think about it, you can always make a like spreadsheet in Excel on your computer to actually help you visualize like where your money goes and which amounts as well, because then it gives you the possibility to cut down expenses
Absolutely.
if it's needed and allocate the money to somewhere else where it should be or where it would be more beneficial in the longer run as well. And of course, if you're able to talk about this whole financial planning and your financial situation with your family, with your wife or partner, it makes it so much easier, because then it creates like a common project inside your household where you're all able to give opinions, tips, and everything regarding that pretty much.
Exactly. And there was probably be somebody who would fight the cause that some have divided economy, which I totally respect, and that's one way to do it. But in my opinion, I feel like if you're going to have a child with another woman within, or your partner within normal circumstances, we are not out in a one night stand or something like that. Guys, we need to own up to our responsibility as a provider and a man. And like you said, really indulge them in a way that we are going towards this goal together, and we are not living separate lives where we have separate bills and separate expenses, because it will, like you said, make it so much easier when you're on the same page and know exactly where we are headed and what we are doing.
Exactly, and it gives you more possibilities to actually create some surplus that you can actually invest or use or save later on as well, like we talked previously. So definitely, if you have the opportunity to combine your household's incomes and expenses, it's much better, in my opinion, as well.
So to sum it up a little to today, it would be tracking your expenses.
Yes.
To get an overview over what are we using, where are the money going. Secondly, don't buy nice to have things, but buy the necessary. Don't buy nice to have things, but need to have, and wait a little longer or sleep on it with the other things. And in the end, of course, get your partner on the same page, work towards the same goals. And I think a very important thing to also give from my experience is there will be a period where the intimacy is not on its highest level, especially after the birth. So if you can make a little side account, we are talking very small amount. You probably know what you're spending when you go out on a dinner night or a nice night with your lady. But make sure that you at least once a month you take her out to a dinner, to a nice place.
Absolutely.
Something. Every 3 months at least, take a little getaway, and one time a year go on a holiday.
Yes, I agree on that, and that's very good practical tip to give to our listeners as well, because it's very important to be present, especially with your wife and your partner, but also it gives you the opportunity to lean on the longer term planning pretty much when you use these tips.
Absolutely. And you can easily, the reason I'm also bringing this up is you can easily find yourself in a position where you have divided economy, you have divided expenses, you kind of almost not telling each other what you are spending money on and where you are going. And that creates uncertainty for her. And when we are looking at the logical and emotional side of men and women, I can easily understand why when she go around worrying all the time, why the relationship is not at its peak or at its best place. So we need to at least the ones that has counted on it, planned it, or is about to be a father in nice ways, and with both partners on board with it, then we need to own up to our responsibility, but not so much that we grind so hard that we forget that we also need to make time for her, not just the kid and not just the money.
Dad, and then what? Real talk, real dads. Life hits hard, but we bounce right back. We grow, we learn, we laugh on the track. Dad, and then what? Yeah, we got your back. Every day's a mission, but we stay in the fight. From diapers to doubts to the late night life. Real men talk, we don't keep it inside. Tune in, level up, bring the dad wave on. And what? The podcast.